Good afternoon and welcome to TMS Tuesday, our rather ambitious attempt at live broadcast in front of an invited audience. Damon, on the camera there, will now present exactly where we are. We're in the Concorde Centre in Manchester, a very fine venue, mainly because of this little jet engine sat above our heads here. So this is the number one, I think it's 002, which was the lead Concorde on the BA fleet. It was the Concorde that was used by the royal family and all of the other celebs that used to jet across the Atlantic and stuff, and cause havoc with the noise it caused when it took off and landed at Heathrow. But anyway, that's a long time ago, and it was all quite exciting all the time. I don't remember any complaints. Just we couldn't hold a conversation when it was overhead. Anyway, so we're back to TMS Tuesday in front of our invited audience. You can see here representing. There's 100 people here representing approximately 30 or 40 airports from across Europe, and we're very privileged to have you all here. Thank you for coming. We did an analysis earlier, and I think we had Ahsoka was come the longest distance here, of about 5,400 miles, closely followed by Osvaldo and the team from Mexico, who came 5,200 miles, which is tremendous. We have guests here from Canada, from Saudi Arabia, and all over the world, basically. So apologies for not mentioning you all, but thank you all for coming. Today's webinar is a panel approach here because of the nature of the event we've got, and we have some questions from the audience. But first of all, I'd like to introduce and from you out there, because we have invited questions from you all. So I've got a number of questions that have come in. But first of all, I'd just like to introduce the panel. To my right here, on the far end of the table, you can see the esteemed Mr. Tony Smith, who was a regular panelist with us. As most of you know, he's Benjamin McCarthy, a government scientist, and as I will mention in a few moments, is celebrating his 50th year in the airfield lighting industry. He started working in airfield lighting 50 years ago. So it's incredible. So achieved so much. So, but just introductions at this stage. Next to him we have Kev Burbidge, first time on the panel. Kev Burbidge is joined TMS Training Solutions last week as managing director. He's taking it, helping us. He's helping Keith and myself take the company to a new level. We are launching a UK training program, which we will talk about some more as part of this presentation. We have over 23 new courses just announced in the UK, but that's more of that later. And of course, next to me, I have Keith. Keith, as you know, will font of all knowledge, trainer. Lifetime again working in airfield lighting, and very pleased and very lucky to count him as a friend and mentor to me in the airfield lighting world. He's, if I was doing mastermind airfield lighting, I would always have my phone friend as the friend. Yeah. So moving on then. I have the first thing I just wanted to talk about was Tony. You started work in the field of aviation, airfield lighting, 50 years ago, as I said earlier. And you've seen them, been actively part, as we know through your inventions, been part of many changes in the world of visual aids. Lights, signs, PAPIs, and floodlights. Looking at our audience of designers, manufacturers, installers, maintainers, and those that regulate the industry, what are the key issues you see facing the airfield lighting industry now?
Well, thank you for the introduction. I must say it's very satisfying to be here, sitting under the Concorde, because it occurs to me that none of us would be here today if in the 70s I hadn't highlighted the fact that lighting was badly maintained to our regulators, the CAA, and eventually they put some money into developing what's become Mars. So it's very satisfying to be here today and to see the development of that, and along with all the other things that I've seen develop over the years.
Maybe take off the screen.
As well as
Bishop sharing that.
we did a lot of the research on the Royal Aircraft Establishment works. And so when I look at it, look back now, as it were, over that, and then look forward, to answer your question, particularly, Robert, I think there are 3 or 4 things I could say, which I'd like to say, but have this opportunity to say. I think perhaps as a result of the feedback I've had from you and from your firm, what you're finding out there in the field just highlights the need for the whole profession, and it must be a profession of airfield lighting maintenance. The profile of that needs to be enhanced considerably from where it is now. It shouldn't be a Cinderella part of the aviation industry. It's a key part, and the feedback we're getting from what we're getting from the TMS large equipment should help to do that. And I think I heard today about the training initiatives in the company. So I think that's wonderful to see that come. There's a long way to go, and I think we all need to think, how do we enhance the professional view that others have of airfield maintenance.
But we're sharing.
In that context,
Stop this.
this does mean that you need to be in dialogue. I say so. You need to go and knock on doors with them, whether it's the designers of the equipment, the manufacturers, the installers, management generally, and if you can, demand that you are part of the dialogue from day one, from the project concept to the handing over to the airport after installation and verification, that it's up to spec. You know the potential shortcomings of various lighting systems, and you need to be there to say that, so that when the equipment is bought and installed, what then is handed over to you, and so I understand nothing happens. You don't get sight of it really, or get your hands on it until all the dotted lines have been signed to say it's satisfactory, and then you have to maintain it. And I would urge you, as far as you can, to insist that you are in on all those meetings and put your professional input in. I think that's very important, right? And it's possible to do it now because of the techniques you have for monitoring maintenance and show the cost benefits. Mars has shown not only can you comply with the shalls in the Annex 14, which are mandatory in international law, but you will actually do it at a lower cost. So that should interest your green councils. It isn't just a nice thing to do, you'll actually save some money. I think go on pushing that as hard as you can, with everybody you can. I think that's and then I would say it's a pity today I realised there isn't a single regulator here. Right? And I think
Not today.
it would be good if, assuming we have a meeting like this next year, to do whatever we can. I don't know, put a gun to their head or whatever. Get some of the regulators here to dialogue with you to hear, because they're not doing their job properly in many cases. And you might think that's going to make your job harder, but I suggest that could be a support for what you're trying to do. If you can go to your management and say, well, the regulator insists, otherwise it's going to shut the road. So I hope we'll see regulators in this very shortly. One other thing, or 2 other things. First of all, if I was king, what I would do in this industry, I would ban from midnight to night flight checks. flight checks are an absolute horror and useless. I'll tell you why. Because think of the approach of runway lines. If we look at Annex 14, there are 4 parameters that define it: intensity, beam spread, setting angle, and colour. Think of a flight check. Of those 4 parameters, which of them does a flight check measure and check? The answer is 0, isn't it? It doesn't check any of that. And this is particularly harmful with the package system we've discovered that flight checks, which have been shown from a few through measurement calculations, if you like, on the back of an envelope, that the accuracy required to be able to calibrate the checker pack is just not there. You cannot do it. So I would say, can we please say to anybody who insists on a flight check, and I know that's a stereo, the flight check tells you nothing that's useful, and let's see it disappear into the mists of history if we possibly can. And one final thing I'd like to say about PAPI, because that's come up quite a lot. And I've got a little demonstration I'll give you very quickly. Basically, what I'm hearing is there seems to be a sense of mystique about PAPI, that it's some infernal instrument that's very difficult to understand and use. What I've got here is, if we'd been here 25 years ago, you would all have had a slide projector for your 35mm slides. The PAPI light unit is no more, no less than a slide projector. That's what you're dealing with. It can be made very, very simply and easily. It isn't rocket science. There's some certain things you need to do to make sure you've got that happen. If you look at that sort of thing, it talks about a sharp transition from one colour, white, to the red. Oh, thank goodness, it's all and also, there's an intensity change. And if you read the specifications, that's 5 to 1 between red and white, which is inevitable when you put red filter glass. That is part of the secret. It isn't just the colour, it's the change of intensity. If you suddenly switch a light from full intensity to 15%, it effectively flashes. It's as good as a flashlight. That's very attention getting. So don't find PAPI where they harmonise the intensities of the red and white. So, that's taking away an important feature of the PAPI. So if you're involved in PAPI buying, make sure you've got a high intensity ratio between the red and the white. But most important of all, to get that sharp transition, you have to have the equipment focused. Now, what we've got at the moment, we've got that the red light filter, just as you have in PAPI, and you can see there's a very sharp line on the wall there between the red and white. If you go and stand there and put your eyeball in there, if it wasn't too bright to totally dazzle you, you'd only have to move your eye a fraction of an inch to go from one colour to another, just tick over. And I've had pilots talk to me saying they were flying late on in the approach, they've got into a wind shear, and the first thing that told them that they had an accentuated descent was the PAPI clicking at them. So that sharp transition is absolutely key. And I know that there are PAPIs out there being manufactured more recently, which I suspect are not properly focused. And when I mean properly focused, this is properly focused if we want a sharp transition at a distance of 10 metres. But we're talking about something that's needed to be used for ranges of up to 10 kilometres. And in a word, what you need to do is focus your PAPI at infinity, which means, quite simply, making the distance between the lens and where your filter is equal to the focal length of the lens. Then it's effectively infinity. of course, the engineering, limitations, you'll be within parts of a millimetre perhaps of where it should be. Well, that's good enough. It's virtually infinity. But if you just do the tests in the laboratory and focus in the laboratory, or even over distances of this room, it won't be you won't have a sharp transition at long range. The prototype units that we use to do all the development work, and we could go to a range of 3 kilometres, and this is our test of different manufacturers came along. So we made a pattern. We had a position 3 kilometres away from our laboratory where we could stand, as I'm standing now, and see a white light, and we could go down there, and it was red. That's the sharp transition. If you look at that, that's about 1 minute, 1 to 1.5 minutes of arc. Something that's focused at that distance, when you get to 300 metres, it's measured in the Annex 14, it says less than 3 minutes of arc. That isn't the specification for the transition of a packet. That's what you'll actually get if you focus so that image is what we would see in infinity. You get a depth of focus which over the operational ranges, mostly it's very close to that. When you get very close to that, a few tens, hundreds of meters, yes, it goes slightly out of focus. But the actual distance is very small then. But you should not be seeing pink zones in your packet. If any parents are saying they see a pink zone, there's something wrong with your packet. Either it's gone out of the line internally, or you've just got a bad packet design. And I think what you don't want to have, if I may say so, is for the pilots something that looks like that. That is not a packet. See, it's insufficient just to have a red light projector. It has to have that very sharp transition. And it's very easy to achieve because if you know the focal length of the lens, that distance is where you put your focal. End of story. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony, for that very comprehensive answer. Yeah, so I mean, this is something that's cropped up on a number of occasions, the issue of a packet apparently being focused against the wall and being very sharp. Of course, the fact is it's not really sharp in the room, is not focused on infinity. So the second question I've got here is, I mentioned earlier the launch of the UK training courses for TMS training solutions and appointment of Kevin. So probably no better to ask Kevin, could you please give us an update? What has been announced?
Yes, Robert. Myself and Tony Coates joined TMS training last week, and our goal is basically to increase the training and emphasis on NGL technicians within the UK and the world market. Obviously, Keith has been fielding the world market now for the past 5 years, Keith.
Nearly ever, I think.
And our aim basically is to go for world domination, as we describe it.
Tell us about your plans for the UK training facility.
So within the UK, we are currently in the process of developing a centre of excellence, I think is the best way to describe it, in Coventry, and this will consist of a runway and a helipad. We are looking at initially 5 courses with the AGL side of it, and we've got top of my head, I think about 7 different courses on top of that, which range from stuff with helipads to actually looking at the water and pits and the dangers that poses to the technician.
Thank you. Yes, I look, there's that many different courses, but it's actually 23 UK-based training sessions arranged for this year, which we've got on the website. So I'm looking forward to that.
And also, that is, I've also been talking to some of our colleagues here overseas, who are also looking to come to join us there, and so there must be very exciting people.
Yeah, one of the things that we intend to include in the training facility with a risk assessment is to demonstrate what a 6.6 amp spark actually looks like at a transformer grid. And we can talk about safety, we talk about voltages, we talk about the current, 6.6 amps. Has anyone ever really seen a 6.6 spark? And many people have not. Most people have not. So to demonstrate in practical terms a 6.6 amp spark in the contaminated water of the transformer pit, and then we'll say, right, now we will put the cable back into the transformer pit. How would you like to put it in? And amazingly, there are no takers. And it's still until you actually see what the 6.6 amp spark. Do you actually believe? Which many do not.
Thank you, Keith. Continue the theme of the questions. Ahsoka from Bandra Airport here, sitting in front of me, has asked, what will be the correct method for the test of newly installed taxiway lighting that are the guidelines of ICAO. This is looking at the installation distance, testing installation resistance for taxiway lighting, as well as the IEC standards. What procedure should they follow? What are the guidelines?
Oh, back to me again. Pretty clear, really. Insulation resistance value is our biggest spot there. The failure of those connectors out of the field. You got 50 lights, you got 50 transformers, you got 50 transformers, you got 100 connectors, all waiting to fail. And it is us as personnel that create the problem, because we're not always effective as human beings. Hung over a transformer pit, out in the field, in the dark, don't really be there. You mates at the football match, or out and getting pissed at the bar. Oh, sorry about that. Should say that, should I? And etc. And you're out there working. You're not the most efficient as a human being. So putting connectors on and having the correct type of connector is one of the aspects that we need to consider. But of course, we need to test. We need to test a brand new circuit, and we're talking cable, connectors, and transformers in the brand new circuit. And we need to pressurize that circuit using a suitable insulation resistance tester, which we commonly call the mega. And when we do the mega check, then on a brand new circuit, standards are pretty clear. There is the Aerodrome Design Manual Part 5, and now, more recently, is the renewed draft of the IEC 61820. And in there, it's pretty clear that we need to pressurize a brand new circuit at 2 times the RMS value. And 2 times the RMS value of the design value of the equipment that goes in the primary circuit is 5,000 volts. So at 2 times 5,000 volts is the pressure of the voltage level that we test at a brand new circuit. And the insulation resistance, that value that we get back, is calculated according to the earth leakage allowance for a circuit, both for the number of transformers and for the length of the primary cable. Therefore, pressurizing, then what figures are we talking about? If you do not have a figure in your project documentation for your contractors, and Derek, are you still there? No, Derek, okay. Then for your contractors, then they quite legally allowed to give you a circuit which is according to the minimum value that is calculated according to the standards. And we don't want that to happen. So if the minimum standard is 50 megohms, it could give you to 51 megohms. When it goes, so tomorrow, it will fall to 49 megohms and it will be not compliant. So we need to have a level in the gigaohm range for grounded cables. And it doesn't matter if it's a taxiway circuit, a runway circuit, standards the same.
Thank you, Keith. And if you want to know more about that subject matter, it was in fact a topic for our last TMS Tuesday. So the recording of that is on the website. So please refer back to that, and you'll see a lot of questions answered. A follow-up question though was, what are the most common, what are the main causes of low insulated resistance on a new installation, and A, on a new installation, and B, on an existing installation? What are the factors that we should particularly watch out for?
I can take that one. Installation doesn't happen for a complete circuit overnight. And it's done in phases. And so therefore, as we install a brand new installation, and we're not talking about an extension of an existing circuit for a brand new installation, then we do that in sectors. And in sectors, when we test each sector that we choose in terms of length of the sector, and then check that we have our cable connectors and insulation and transformer at the correct installation resistance value. The sad thing is, then we leave it cold surface, it's concentration in there. So when we in the next sector and we test that, that's okay. Then the next sector, that's okay. When we put it all together, the bloody thing fails. And therefore you've got a hot zone. Many projects do not hot zone. And therefore, you know, that criteria is that we must have a process in place in our project method statements to ensure that we follow a sequence of events like that.
Thank you. Very comprehensive answer there. The next question I have is much debate about sapphire coated lenses. They're a lot more expensive than standard lenses. Is it worth it?
Well, Mo, you're here from Heathrow. You've changed to sapphire coated lenses, haven't you?
Yes.
According to the television, anyway. And is it worth it? Well, it's you know, from a one-for-one sale, then potentially you could say, that's a bit expensive. A bit like going to buy something in a shop, you know. You look at one product and look at another and say, ooh, you know, that's the Rolls Royce of products, and maybe this one will do. Okay? But when you look at the whole life costs, then that's different. Right? Whole life costs, and you look at the compliance of the light fixture in terms of light output, and of course, with Lamont's technology and the effectiveness of photometric testing, we can very clearly see the advantage of going down the sapphire coating route. But not so many airports are so proactive in that respect. I think continual photometric testing will highlight the positives.
Well, let's ask which airports here changed from changed to LED and to sapphire coated lenses? Mo, you have. The Matt from Halifax has. Anybody else? Over there, yes. So, and was it a good decision? Yes. You think so? Matt, yeah. Mo, yeah. Well, unanimous. It's worth it. There is additional cost, but certainly from the evidence I've seen from testing, the lights last exponentially longer. I mean, particularly because I think in the environments we're looking at, they're treated very, very harshly. So, and it will lengthen the life considerably. In fact, I even saw some lights in Halifax which had the aluminium casting worn away around the sapphire coating, and the sapphire coating was still intact, which I wasn't paying for them, but it didn't make sense to me given the cost of the light in the first place. So thank you for that. Ringing endorsement for sapphire coating lenses. The next question concerns the de-icing. That de-icing fluid. I think it's a general issue. I think relating to fluids sitting in front of the lens. I think we covered this actually in the TMS Tuesday, but there's a question about inset fixtures where the recess in front of the lens, it acts as a harbour for fluids. So what happens is in rain and when there's de-icing events, the fluids can sit in front of the lens, and with an LED light, there's nothing to make them go away. No evaporation, and indeed in cold weather, the lights can in cold weather the light will the water or the fluid can freeze, not just because the water can freeze, which would cause the light to cease to function electrically. So what are we doing about this? What should we do about it?
In the manufacturers association with the design. Yes, I have seen now inset lights, impact lights, where the slope is downwards and outwards. We're talking about the low temperature areas. We changed from tungsten halogen to LED. Of course, if you hand on tungsten halogen, inset light, you can burn your stuff, 6.6 amps, put it on an LED, warm. When we look at the icing fluid, and I don't know the exact percentages, but it is indicated when you put the icing fluid on the runway, it reduces the light output by around 60 to 70%. But it's 60% variation clearly there, no longer surgery. So we have to ensure we've got some kind of cleaning regime that meets that requirement. So it's a difficult decision. It depends where you are in the world. Obviously, in the colder world, it's but even then, there are different places, whether we're in the Arctic, or what you say, -50 at one stage. Well, at -50, you ain't going to be able to do much about it, eh? But when you're close to zero, then perhaps you can have a better cleaning or a clearing regime. Should we put heaters in the light fixture? There are manufacturers that will give the option of a heater element. There's those kind of acts. It comes back to the choice where you are in the world.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Well, I'm getting unfortunate feedback that our sound quality and it's not working great as over the Zoom this broadcast. I apologise to those of you that can even hear me at the moment. I think for everyone in the room you can hear us, but just I'm aware I had a message to say that it's not coming across very clearly. So apologies for that. Right, so we're coming to the end of our hour here. I'm very keen. One final question for Tony. If you had the power to engage ICAO to make any changes to the standards, what areas would you look at for them to actually tackle first?
I think from a practical point of view, what occurs to me is typified by the notice that we've been passing every time we get in and out of this building that advertises our meeting using modern technology, high brightness screen. I would have 20 or more years ago, it was sort of pipe dream to be able to have large television pictures on which you could display information to pilots, and that was just a pipe dream then. It's now a reality. The technology is there to produce signage that is daytime and nighttime visible. One cannot doubt that fact. You're only going to put the sports stadium, Olympic games where they've got enormous screens which are perfectly legible day and night. And this is an area where we're living with the technology of making taxiway signage, which has its beginnings at the very earliest in the 1940s. And how many of you are still driving a car that was manufactured and designed in the 1940s? The technology, to my mind, is out there shouting at you, use this, because you can, one of the things, because problem takeaway is this problem that Robert identifies is the uneven illumination of the signs. That should be, with that technology, largely removed. The other thing is, it's a human factors thing that niggles with me, that is very important. Ring of Red was mentioned earlier today. I think in the context of this forum, it was a word I used for the first time in the 1980s in contact with, on conjunction with runway incursions. I said we need to draw a red line all the way around an active runway, so that every possible entry into that runway, whether it's a taxiway, a roadway, whatever it is, there's a red line indicated either by signage or by lights, that you have to have a positive clearance to go beyond that. The stop bar is switched off, but you've got the one that niggles me most is the runway test, runway Cat 1 and Cat 2, 3 hold signs. Now, those are red mandatory signs. The guidance is you do not pass a red sign without getting a positive clearance from air traffic. But if you look out there now, you're probably not operating in category 1, an aircraft is taxiing out to the runway past red signs without any communication with air traffic control. Now, this is a human factor. There's a gate there open that potentially a misheard or not heard instruction. You've got someone having access onto a runway when they shouldn't. But the other way around, ignoring the signs. You should not, you wouldn't say, no, I've got traffic lights on this road, but today you can ignore them. You don't do that sort of thing, do you? And it's a human factors issue. With that technology, you can do away with that because you can switch a sign off at night, but the daytime, at the moment, what you read is the face of the sign. You read the letters on the sign, not illuminated. So you can't switch them off in the daytime. It would be enhanced considerably, I think, the safety of access to the runways by using that technology and literally switching it off when it does not apply to the operations that are currently being conducted. And I think there's one with the technology that could, it seemed to me through a win-win in a pretty short term, is to get rid of all these old coffins that are painted white inside with a fluorescent tube with poor illumination and go and grab that technology and use it.
Can I just add something? In the last 24 hours or so on LinkedIn, I saw some additional markings that were added leading up to a runway holding position, whereby there was an additional either side of the taxiway centre line, additional yellow lines which indicated leading up to a runway holding position. There was one civil aviation authority that was approved it and are trialing it. So there are more than just the lighting associated with runway incursion safety. And of course, there are the runway status light system as well, which is being an American system, the US system, but not necessarily adopted, globally. So there are additional things that are being implemented to, stop runway incursion. I mean, look at the recent, the last couple of weeks, the Japanese issue, where the aircraft landed, came into land, approval to land, and the stop bar was out of commission. No tap had already been. The small aircraft went onto the runway, and the passenger jet landing into sun didn't see it because the aircraft itself, the small aircraft, was of a white colour, so it wasn't seen and landed on it. So all the people were killed, and I think we've all seen the press, and we haven't seen the accident investigation report yet.
Okay, thank you, Keith. So, so we reached the end of our hour. Thank you very much, Tony, Kev, and Keith, and thank you very much for being our live audience here today. So I will now say goodbye to our TMS Tuesday listeners and viewers, hopefully, and we will resume services as usual.